Let's think about a story. In this story, a man is about to do something really bad. He doesn't know that his neighbor is actually the new sheriff in town. She's moved in secretly, so no one knows who she is yet. This story is about Bob, a man who always seems to be in a bad mood. He lives in a small town where everyone knows each other. Bob, though, is known for complaining. He complains about the weather, the mailman, and especially his neighbors. He thinks they're always too loud or their yards are too messy. Bob likes things to be just perfect, and he gets mad when they're not. Imagine Bob sitting on his porch, grumbling to himself. He's probably wearing an old hat and has a grumpy look on his face. He sees a moving truck pull up next door. Great, he mutters. More noisy neighbors. He watches as a woman gets out of the truck and starts unloading boxes. He already doesn't like her. Little does Bob know this woman, Sarah, is about to change his life and not in a good way for him. She is the new sheriff and she's about to show Bob that you can't just go around threatening people. Now let's meet Sarah. She wasn't just any new neighbor. Sarah had just arrived in town. Her car was filled with her things. Boxes were packed in every corner. She was the new sheriff. But no one knew yet. She wanted to get to know the town before she started making changes. She wanted to see what the town was really like. Sarah smiled as she got out of the truck. She looked around at the houses and the trees. It seemed like a nice, quiet place. Just what she was looking for. She hoped she would like living here. She had left a busy city to come to this small town. She wanted to make a difference. Sarah was tough, but she was also fair. She knew how to handle difficult people. But she always tried to be kind first. She believed in giving people a second chance. But she also knew when to be firm. She knew how important it was to keep the peace. She pulled her hair back into a ponytail and started unloading boxes. She decided she would unpack everything today. She wanted to get settled in right away. She knew being the new sheriff was going to be a lot of work. She needed to be ready. She had no idea that her first test would come so soon and it would be her grumpy new neighbor. Bob watched Sarah from his porch. He didn't like what he saw. The music coming from her house was too loud. He could hear it even with his windows closed. And her yard. It was a mess. Boxes were everywhere and she hadn't even mowed the grass. This is just great, he grumbled to himself. Just what this neighborhood needed. He started making a list of all the things that were wrong. The music was too loud. The grass was too long. The boxes were blocking the sidewalk. He even thought her car was parked crooked. Bob was sure that Sarah was the worst neighbor he had ever had. And she had only been there for a few hours. He decided he would have to talk to her. He couldn't let her get away with this. He marched over to her yard ready to complain. He was going to tell her exactly what he thought. He didn't care if she liked it or not. Bob was determined to make her change. He wanted his quiet, perfect neighborhood back. But Sarah, focused on unpacking, had no idea that Bob was marching toward her, ready to unleash a storm of complaints. Bob stomped across the lawn, his face red with anger. "Hey!" he yelled. Sarah turned around, startled. She had been carrying a box into the house. A small dog, a scruffy terrier mix, peeked out from inside the box. "Yes?" Sarah asked, trying to be polite. "That music is too loud," Bob shouted. "And look at this yard. It's a disgrace." Sarah sighed. She had expected this. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'll turn the music down. And I'll get to the yard as soon as I can." "It's not just the music and the yard," Bob continued, his voice rising. "It's that mutt of yours. I don't want it running around my yard." "He's a very friendly dog," Sarah said, trying to stay calm. "He won't bother you. I don't want him near me," Bob yelled. "Keep him inside." "Look," Sarah said, "I'm trying to be reasonable. But you need to calm down. He's just a little dog." "I'm warning you," Bob said, pointing his finger at Sarah. "Keep that dog away from me or you'll regret it." He turned and stormed back to his house, leaving Sarah standing in her yard, shaking her head. She couldn't believe how rude he was. She thought to herself, this is going to be a long stay. Sarah went back to unpacking, trying to ignore Bob's outburst. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Bob's anger seemed way out of proportion to the situation. She kept an eye on him as she carried more boxes inside. A few minutes later, Bob came out of his house again. This time, he was carrying something. Sarah squinted to see what it was. Her heart skipped a beat. It was a gun. Bob walked onto his lawn, holding the gun in his hand. "I told you to keep that dog away from me," he shouted, his voice shaking with rage. "Now you're going to pay." Sarah's training kicked in. She knew she had to stay calm. She slowly put down the box she was holding and faced Bob. Her mind raced, trying to figure out the best way to handle the situation. She couldn't believe this was happening. Her first day in town, and she was already facing a man with a gun. She knew she had to act quickly to protect herself and the neighborhood. The little terrier mix whimpered softly from inside the box, sensing the tension. Bob, blinded by fury, didn't realize he was making the biggest mistake of his life. "Bob, put the gun down," Sarah said, her voice calm but firm. She kept her hands visible, making no sudden movements. "We can talk about this." Bob just laughed, a harsh, angry sound. "Talk? You think I want to talk? You've ruined my neighborhood. And now you're threatening me with that mud." He raised the gun slightly, pointing it in Sarah's direction. Sarah knew she had to act fast. "Bob, I am the sheriff," she said clearly and slowly. "I'm asking you one more time. Put the gun down." The words seemed to hang in the air. Bob's eyes widened in disbelief. He lowered the gun a fraction, his mouth agape. He looked at Sarah, then at the gun in his hand, then back at Sarah again. The color drained from his face. He clearly didn't believe her, but the calm authority in her voice gave him pause. The little dog in the box barked once, as if adding emphasis to Sarah's words. Bob's world was about to turn upside down. "Sheriff?" Bob stammered, his voice barely a whisper. He looked around nervously, as if expecting other officers to appear. But you just moved in." "That's right," Sarah said, maintaining her steady gaze. "And now you know who I am. So let's try this again. Put the gun down, Bob." He started to backpedal, his eyes darting from Sarah to the gun. I didn't mean anything by it," he mumbled. It's just for protection." "Protection from a small dog?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow. "Well, yes. He looks dangerous." Bob protested weakly. Sarah could see the fear in his eyes. He knew he had made a huge mistake. He was trying to find a way out of it, but there was no escape. He had threatened a law enforcement officer with a deadly weapon. That was not something you could easily explain away. He felt like he was sinking in quicksand. The more he struggled, the worse it got. He wished he could rewind time and just stay on his porch, grumbling to himself. But it was too late. The new sheriff was here, and she wasn't going to let him off easy. "It's okay, Bob," Sarah said, her voice still calm and reassuring. "Just slowly put the gun on the ground. Then step away from it." Bob hesitated for a moment, then slowly bent down and placed the gun on the grass. He took a few steps back, his hands raised in the air. He was shaking like a leaf. Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out her cell phone. "I'm going to call for backup now," she said. "Just stay where you are." Bob's eyes widened in panic. "No, please don't do that," he pleaded. "I'm sorry. I won't do it again. I promise." Sarah ignored his pleas and dialed 911. She quickly explained the situation to the dispatcher, giving her address and a description of Bob. "I have the suspect detained," she said, "but I need backup as soon as possible." As she waited for the deputies to arrive, Sarah kept her eyes on Bob. He was pacing back and forth, muttering to himself. She knew he was probably regretting every decision he had made that day. But it was too late for regrets. He had crossed a line, and now he would have to face the consequences. The little dog in the box barked again, almost as if he knew that justice was on its way. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as the deputies approached. Bob hung his head, defeated. He knew there was no way out now. A patrol car screeched to a halt in front of Sarah's house, followed by another. Two deputies jumped out, their guns drawn. "Sheriff?" one of them called out, recognizing Sarah. "It's all clear," Sarah replied. "He's unarmed and compliant." She pointed to Bob, who was standing with his hands still raised. The deputies approached Bob cautiously and placed him in handcuffs. They read him his rights and then led him to the patrol car. Bob didn't resist. He just kept his head down, his face red with shame. As they drove Bob away, a few neighbors peeked out from their windows. They had heard the sirens and the commotion. They were shocked to see Bob being arrested. They couldn't believe that the grumpy old man next door had actually threatened someone with a gun. And they were even more surprised to learn that his victim was the new sheriff. The news would spread quickly through the small town. Bob's life would never be the same, and Sarah's first day as sheriff would be one she would never forget. The next day, the story was all over town. Some people were shocked. They couldn't believe that Bob, who always seemed so harmless, could do something so dangerous. Others were amused. They had always found Bob to be a bit of a nuisance, and they thought he had finally gotten what he deserved. And some were relieved. They knew that Bob's behavior had been escalating for years, and they were glad that someone had finally put a stop to it. The neighbors started talking about Sarah. They were impressed by how calmly she had handled the situation. They were also curious about her. Who was this woman who had moved into their quiet little town and immediately arrested one of their own? Some people were worried. They wondered if Sarah was going to be too strict. They were used to a more relaxed style of law enforcement. But others were hopeful. They thought that maybe Sarah could bring some much-needed change to the town. They had been feeling unsafe for a while, and they hoped that Sarah could make things better. As for Sarah, she knew that she had made a strong first impression. She hadn't wanted things to start this way, but she also knew that she had done the right thing. She had shown the town that she was serious about keeping them safe. And she was ready to get to work. Sarah knew she needed to address the community directly. She decided to hold a town hall meeting. She wanted to talk about what had happened with Bob, but more importantly, she wanted to talk about the future. She wanted to reassure people that she was there to protect them, but also to help them resolve conflicts peacefully. At the meeting, Sarah explained that she understood people were scared and confused. She talked about the importance of communication and respect. She said that she wanted to create a community where everyone felt safe and valued. She also announced some new initiatives. She said she would be starting a neighborhood watch program. She also wanted to organize workshops on conflict resolution. She hoped that these programs would help people to work through their problems without resorting to violence. Some people were skeptical. They had heard promises like this before, but others were genuinely impressed. They could see that Sarah was sincere. They believed that she really cared about the town and its people. After the meeting, several people approached Sarah to thank her. They said that they felt much better about the situation. They were hopeful that Sarah could bring positive change to the town. Sarah smiled. She knew that she had a long road ahead of her, but she was determined to make a difference. She was ready to be the sheriff that the town needed. Bob's trial was a somber affair. He was charged with aggravated assault and reckless endangerment. The prosecution presented a strong case, highlighting the seriousness of his actions and the potential harm he could have caused. Sarah testified, recounting the events of that day in a calm and professional manner. She didn't express any anger or resentment towards Bob. She simply stated the facts. Bob's lawyer argued that he was a good man who had simply made a mistake. He said that Bob had been under a lot of stress lately and that he hadn't meant to hurt anyone. He asked the judge to show leniency. The judge listened carefully to both sides. He acknowledged that Bob had no prior criminal record and that he seemed genuinely remorseful. However, he also emphasized the importance of deterring others from committing similar acts. He sentenced Bob to 1 year in jail and ordered him to attend anger management classes. Bob was led away in handcuffs, his head bowed. He knew that he had made a terrible mistake, and he was now paying the price. As he disappeared from view, Sarah felt a pang of sympathy for him. She knew that he had a long and difficult road ahead of him. But she also knew that he had to be held accountable for his actions. It was the only way to ensure that the community remained safe. The little terrier mix, now settled comfortably in Sarah's home, seemed to sense the gravity of the moment, offering a silent, comforting presence. Over the next few months, Sarah worked hard to earn the community's trust. She made a point of being visible and approachable. She attended town events, visited local businesses, and got to know the residents. She listened to their concerns and worked to address their needs. She implemented the Neighborhood Watch program, and it was a huge success. People started looking out for each other and reporting suspicious activity. The crime rate in the town went down significantly. The conflict resolution workshops were also well attended. People learned how to communicate more effectively and resolve their differences peacefully. Slowly but surely, the town began to change. People were friendlier, more respectful, and more willing to help each other. The community felt safer and more connected. Sarah had proven that she was more than just a tough sheriff. She was a leader, a peacemaker, and a true friend to the town. She even started mowing her lawn regularly, though she still played her music a little loud sometimes. The little terrier mix, now named Justice, became a beloved member of the community, often seen accompanying Sarah on her rounds. Even the skeptics had to admit that Sarah had made a positive impact. She had brought hope and healing to a town that had desperately needed it. At another town hall meeting, several months later, Sarah stood before the community once more. This time, the atmosphere was different. There was a sense of warmth and connection in the air. The tension and uncertainty that had been present at the first meeting were gone. "I want to thank you all," Sarah said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You welcomed me into your town even after everything that happened. You gave me a chance to prove myself. And I'm so grateful for that. She talked about the progress they had made together. She talked about the importance of community and the power of working together. She shared stories of people who had overcome challenges and made a positive impact on the town. We still have a lot of work to do, Sarah said. But I know that we can do it. Because we're a community. We're a family. And we're in this together. The crowd erupted in applause. They cheered for Sarah and for the town. They felt a sense of pride and hope. They knew that they had a strong leader in Sarah and they were excited about the future. A little girl even presented Sarah with a drawing of Justice, the terrier mix, wearing a sheriff's badge. It was a symbol of how far they had come. Sarah smiled, her heart full. She knew that she had found her home. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Sarah didn't just talk, she took action. She organized a cleanup day where everyone in town came together to pick up trash and beautify the streets. She started a mentoring program for at-risk youth, pairing them with positive role models in the community. She even convinced the town council to invest in a new park, complete with a playground, walking trails, and a community garden. She worked closely with the local schools, implementing programs to prevent bullying and promote positive behavior. She also partnered with local businesses to create job opportunities for young people. Sarah believed that a strong community was built on more than just law enforcement. It was built on opportunity, education, and connection. She wanted to create a town where everyone had the chance to succeed regardless of their background. She made sure that everyone in town knew that her door was always open. She encouraged people to come to her with their problems and concerns. She listened patiently and offered support and guidance. She wanted to be more than just a sheriff. She wanted to be a resource, a friend, and a confidant. And slowly but surely, that's exactly what she became. The town, once divided by suspicion and fear, was now united by hope and a shared vision for a brighter future. All thanks to the leadership of their new sheriff. When Bob was released from jail a year later, he was a changed man. He had attended all of his anger management classes and had come to terms with his behavior. He was filled with remorse for what he had done, and he was determined to make amends. He knew that he had a lot of work to do to earn back the community's trust. He started by volunteering at the local soup kitchen. He helped to clean up the park that Sarah had worked so hard to create. He even apologized to Sarah personally for his actions. Sarah was surprised to see him. She listened patiently as he expressed his remorse. She could see that he was sincere. She told him that she forgave him and that she hoped he could move on with his life. It took time, but slowly but surely Bob began to reintegrate into the community. People were still wary of him, but they could see that he was trying. They appreciated his efforts to make amends. He eventually got a job at the local hardware store and he became a valued member of the team. He even started attending the town hall meetings, offering his support for Sarah's initiatives. Bob's journey was a testament to the power of forgiveness and redemption. It showed that even the grumpiest of neighbors could change for the better. The town continued to thrive under Sarah's leadership. The crime rate remained low and the community continued to grow stronger. Sarah's initiatives had created a ripple effect, inspiring others to get involved and make a difference. The mentoring program flourished, providing guidance and support to countless young people. The community garden became a source of pride, providing fresh produce for the local food bank. The new park became a gathering place for families, fostering a sense of community and belonging. Sarah received numerous awards and accolades for her work, but she always insisted that the real credit belonged to the people of the town. She said that they were the ones who had made the changes possible. They were the ones who had embraced her vision and worked tirelessly to make it a reality. Sarah often reflected on that first day in town when she had been threatened by Bob. She realized that it had been a turning point, not just for her but for the entire community. It had been a moment of crisis that had ultimately led to positive change. It had shown her the importance of staying calm under pressure, of reaching out to others, and of never giving up on hope. And it had taught her that even the grumpiest of neighbors could be transformed by kindness and forgiveness. Years later, Sarah sat on her porch watching the sunset. Justice, now an old and gray dog, lay at her feet. She thought about all that had happened since she had first arrived in town. She had faced challenges and setbacks, but she had also experienced moments of great joy and satisfaction. She had learned a lot about herself and about the power of community. She had discovered that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope for a brighter future. She had also learned that being a sheriff was about more than just enforcing the law. It was about building relationships, fostering trust, and creating a safe and welcoming environment for everyone. She looked out at the town, which was now a vibrant and thriving place. She saw children playing in the park, families strolling down the street, and neighbors helping each other out. She smiled. She knew that she had made a difference. She had left her mark on the town, and the town had left its mark on her. And she knew that she would never forget her first day as sheriff, the day she met Bob, the day that changed everything. That day, in a strange way, had made her the sheriff she was meant to be. One sunny afternoon, a young officer, fresh out of the academy, approached Sarah with a question. "Sheriff," he began hesitantly, "how did you know what to do that day?" "With Bob, I mean. You were so calm. I don't think I could have handled it like that." Sarah smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. "Well," she said, "experience helps. But more than that, it's about understanding people. Bob wasn't just a grumpy old man with a gun. He was a person in pain, a person who felt like he had lost control. My job wasn't just to arrest him. It was to de-escalate the situation, to protect everyone involved, including him." She paused, then continued, "Being a sheriff isn't just about enforcing the law. It's about being a leader, a counselor, a mediator. It's about seeing the best in people even when they're showing you their worst. It's about building bridges, not walls. And it's about never giving up on the possibility of redemption." The young officer nodded, his eyes wide with understanding. He knew that he had a lot to learn, but he also knew that he had the best possible teacher. Sarah, the sheriff who had transformed a town, not just through law enforcement, but through compassion and understanding. She had taught him that being a good cop meant being a good human being. And that was a lesson he would never forget.